each one assigned to a particular task, or each one is assigned to multiple tasks with a time schedule. There is a schedule that you can make out. And, as a project manager, you're keeping right on top. And that is going to help you when you actually move into the execution stage. Execution is nothing but all the planning now being put into action. Um, you've already assigned, you know what the tasks are, you know what your time schedule is. Everybody go out there and start doing it. And as a project manager, you are making sure that it's all going as per plan. The other thing that Nikhil took you through was the triple constraint, and that's where the triple constraint actually comes in. Are you staying to the schedule? Are you staying to the scope? And are you staying within the budget? And as a project manager, your role then becomes very critical and significant to make sure that the time that has been allocated or has been scheduled is, you are keeping everybody, you're keeping your team in track, and within that, the schedules that have been made out and the job allocations that have been made out are within the scope of what this particular project has to achieve. And of course, the budget is already laid out to you. You know what the budget is, and you know that if you're going to either go out of scope or go out of your time, it's going to be a problem on the budget. And then the equilibrium of all three are going to get messed up. And that's what the triple constraint, is keeping all these elements in balance, keeping them all in equilibrium, so that at the center, the quality is maintained, and the quality is something that you can then make sure that is there in the project that you are working on. And of course, once the execution starts, it's your monitoring, and then you kind of close. Agile is pretty much the same. It's just that you will not go in a sequential order. Waterfall is, if you understand, you start one particular process that leads you to the second, that kind of leads you to the third, that kind of leads you to the fourth, and which is why it's called waterfall. Almost like, where you will see in these, whether it's a fountain or it's, these smaller fountains that people will have in their offices and homes, where the water is going from one vessel to another and to another. In Agile, it's more of an iterative process. So you plan, you do, but as you're doing, you're constantly checking, you check, you adjust, and you plan, and then you keep going through those iterative processes, so that you make sure that you are ending on time, keeping the triple constraint in your mind. So it's not a sequential process, but more of a circular one where you keep going one around the other. Okay, I'm going to skip. This is pretty much, what a repetition of what we did last time. There you go. Those are the 5 steps or processes of project management. Planning, executing, monitoring, controlling keeps happening side by side. You have to keep working on that. Monitoring and controlling happens during the execution phase. If there is something that needs to be done as a firefighting, you go back into planning, redo that, and then come into the execution. And then, of course, ultimately, you kind of close. Key elements of project planning, like we said, initiation stage, identify your stakeholders, understand what is the scope of your project, make sure that the team understands that, make out your project charter so that you have your milestones, your big ticket, work deliverables are all laid out. Once that is done, you move into defining roles and responsibilities for the team. You'll make a schedule. You'll, have your kickoff meeting. You have the budget, you have the timeline, work out a schedule, prioritize. Once you've done the work breakdown structure, you will know which activities need to be done before others. Create your project schedule, do a risk assessment, make sure that you're constantly communicating with your team. And I think that's where we are actually going to be picking up today, and that is with risk management, because there's always some risk or the other, that can come in, which we sometimes, as good project managers, we need to kind of anticipate and have a backup plan. But there's sometimes are risks where we cannot anticipate. And, as good project managers, we also need to know how is it that we will be mitigating those particular risks. Okay, so let's move on. We did the charter. You have the why, who, how, what, or what you are doing. Your work breakdown structure, which basically is a continuation of the project charter. In the project charter, if you notice, you put down deliverables, and then those deliverables have to and you put down milestones to achieve those deliverables. So milestones are your big ticket actions, your big ticket jobs or activities that need to be done so that you can achieve a particular deliverable. Now, these are big ticket bucket activities. These bucket activities then need to be broken down into sub and then sub activities. And this is what the work breakdown structure helps you to do. So if you're planning a press conference, there will be some big ticket bucket, tasks that need to be done. You need to get a venue, you have to get a speaker, you make sure you do your marketing comms. There will have to be some food and beverages. There will have to be arrangements at the venue that need to be done. You will need a stage, you will need mics, you will need LED screens, all of that. So once you have your big bucket activities, then it's easier to kind of break them down into smaller ones. Of course, the first is the planning. You have to have the plan approved by your organization, the budget will have to be approved. Who are going to be the points of contact for which, what's the team, who's the coordinator? And then you start working on, the first thing is to go look for a venue, decide the venue, book the venue, start arranging everything. So under each of these, big ticket jobs or bucket activities, the more you break it down, the finer that you can label the sub activities. You also make sure that you don't forget anything, you don't mess up, and it becomes easier for you to kind of allocate responsibilities and allocate a timeline. So this is all comes under your planning stage. The more detailed you are, the better your planning and your outcome of your project comes up. This is the charter. There are tools that are available online that will help you do this. I mean, you can do this manually, take sticky notes and, make out a work breakdown structure, but then there are, simpler online software tools that are available that will help you do this. And then you can share this with everybody on the team. You can share your schedules that you make out so that it becomes easy for everyone. Everyone has the bigger picture. Everyone knows, what is it that we are trying to achieve, but they also know what is their role and responsibility within the bigger picture that is being worked upon. And therefore, plan, schedule management, define the activities, sequence activities, estimate activity resources, the duration, and all of this together will help you make your schedule. That's the cost management phases. We just went through this, and then we come to understanding and categorizing your stakeholders. Just very quickly, did we do this last time? Did we go through the stakeholders? Can anyone just kind of remind?
No. We did
Okay.
not.
Okay, so then let's get started right here. And I think Nikhil would have joined. Nikhil, if you're there, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I was a little late getting to the office today.
No worries. Nikhil, would
Yeah,
you want me to continue sharing, or would you prefer doing it so that you control the
yeah,
presentation?
I'll just bring it up right now.
Okay, let me stop sharing that.
Thank you. I think stakeholder, right?
Yeah.
Like this.
So while Nikhil pulls up the deck and we get started, let's just start on the stakeholder bit. So who do you think is a stakeholder?
People with whom we are interacting on, like within the system, outside, who are connected to us, it is like the stakeholder. So we can say internal and external stakeholder, but all whomever we are connecting in any of the form related to the roles. Yeah.
Lovely. So not just people who we are connected with inside and outside, but people who are connected with internally, externally, who are vested, who are in some way connected to the project that we are going to be working with. So for Alchemist, both Nikhil and I are stakeholders, right? We are here conducting the workshop. So both of us then become stakeholders. Are we internal stakeholders or external stakeholders?
You are an external stakeholder.
Lovely. Absolutely. We are external stakeholders. Nikhil, over to you. Take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. So I completely agree with the stakeholder is such a broad statement because you have some people think that only if you're giving a service to somebody or are they a stakeholder, you actually at points in projects and programs you have indirect stakeholders too. You may be supporting a project or a program or any kind of product or anything, but you don't know who the end customer is. You don't know, so there's so many different levels of stakeholders that you could be impacting. And obviously, like Dino said, there is internal stakeholders and external or indirect. So you have a multitude of different stakeholders who okay, next screen, who you're impacting. The very important thing with the stakeholder is in project management and program management, it's not about surprises. You want to keep them constantly updated, or you're constantly engaging with stakeholders, because even though they may or may not, like I said, have a direct affiliation to the project or program, but they have some stake in it, indirect or direct. So it's really good. Normally what we do when we are driving projects and programs, we always try to bring all the stakeholders, direct, indirect, in sprints, because we work in agile. So every 2 weeks we meet up with them, give them progress updates, what's going on. And the best thing is it's better to do constant communication than with a stakeholder than just dropping a surprise at the very end. So managing a stakeholder, I think, is a very important piece in project management and program management. You may be the best at what you do. You may deliver the best thing, but if you don't have good communication and good relationship, you got to build that relationship too with the stakeholder. So if you're just going to be pretty numb and this is what the update is and send off an email, it's probably not going to work. So yeah. So can you name the different categories of stakeholders? We'll just show you this. Obviously, we have internal stakeholders. Like I said, sometimes you have sponsors. In projects, you need sponsors who internally or externally sponsor the project financially or with time. Time and assets are also important. When I say sponsor, I don't mean just by giving money. Normally, people working on different projects cost money. So if you are moving some project teams working from this project to your project is actually costing the company money, right? Just by moving people. The project manager, the portfolio manager, all these people cost money to a company. So when I say sponsor, I mean even time, I mean money, I mean quantity, I mean quality. So all of it gets impacted. External stakeholders could be anything, from the local suppliers, end users, anybody using it, indirectly, directly, even stakeholders who have heard of your project. Maybe you're building a product that may go out as a B2B or a C2C or a B2C. So it could be any of those. Like we said, stakeholder management is very, very important. It's a process, where you're constantly engaging. You set up milestones. That's the word that we use. Stakeholder is aware of the milestones that are coming up, the risks that could impact them significantly, whether indirectly or directly as well. And so, you want to basically try to balance how you execute the project. And then you also want to take feedback back from a stakeholder, because at times we may think that, we're the best at what we do. Nothing else matters because I'm the best and everything else is not as good as me. But you want to keep constantly taking feedback. Hey, you know what? We hit this milestone. What do you guys think? Let's get some feedback. What if you're building something completely different and they want something which is not aligned, maybe in the initiation phase? So by you tapping into them constantly, you're connecting the dots with the stakeholder. So like I said, it's not a one-way street communication. You also want to give feedback back to the, get feedback back from the stakeholders. We'll just show you some of these. Let me do this. So obviously you have to identify the stakeholders, hey, who's who, how do they impact me? How do they take the project? What are the needs that they have? Analyze whether, what is their interest, their stake, expectations, like I just said, right? They may have completely different expectations. And you may have signed some kind of document or an SOW. An SOW is called statement of work. A lot of service projects or products have SOWs. A statement of work is basically where the customer, the stakeholders, the people working on the execution come together and say, this is going to be the scope of work that I'm going to work on, and this is what I'm not going to do. So obviously you want to manage the stakeholders so they don't have the moon and the stars as an expectation, but you're working on the ground level. So you want to continue to take actions by updating them, managing their expectations, and then you keep reviewing and repeating this. You want to do it in a sprint. You do it every 2 weeks. You want to do it on a monthly basis. So it depends on the size of the program, right? If it's going to take 1 week, you may want to meet them every day. If it's going to take a couple months, you want to meet them every other week. So that's for you to decide as a project manager, program manager. Risk is so important in project management and program management. Like I always told you, I feel like half of the job of a project manager, program manager is literally to manage risk. We come into our projects looking, I know it sounds kind of crazy, but I am actively looking for risks even before the project starts. What could go wrong? So I know some people like, why are you so negative? Why are you thinking that something is going to go wrong in this project? Why can't everything? I've been doing projects for 19 or 20 years now. I've never had a project without any risk or issues or something go wrong. It always happens. There are constraints. There are things that are not in your control. There are things in your control. A project doesn't just mean that you're working on it alone, right? So there's a lot of different people. It could be personal reasons too. Someone gets sick, someone falls sick, someone leaves the company, someone, decides I'm going to go for a vacation. It could be issues from the supplier that you can't control. It could be issues from your own teams, your management. It could be issues with software. Something is just not working right. You really don't know. But you actually have to actively go out there as per the risk management and mitigation. You want to actively try to find the risk before they actually happen. I know that sounds ludicrous, but you if you peg all the things that can go wrong, you set up things that could possibly be fixed. In a lot of companies, in big companies, we do something called ITDR, DR, BCP, BCDR. I'll tell you what these mean. It's a little connected to risk management. DR, which is D for Delhi and R for Romeo, Rome, stands for disaster recovery. A lot of companies, Fortune 500, Fortune 100, whatever, all of us, we do disaster recovery for IT or non-IT. We do what's your business plans. We check that. What that basically means is we're on Zoom today. Zoom has probably done disaster recovery. What happens if the servers or the cloud that Zoom is sitting on goes completely offline? What happens to the millions of people using Zoom? Is there a backup? Is there some kind of recovery? Same as with hospitals, right? I'll give you an example. Unfortunately, we had an accident, or we have all these people coming to the hospital, but the hospital lost electricity. How am I supposed to take care of my patients if I don't have electricity? Do we have disaster recovery? Do we have a fail safe? Do we have redundancy? Yes, we have a generator that can support us for 6 hours. Yes, we have UPSs and stuff like that. So that's also part of risk management. It's called disaster recovery, where we're always planning worst case scenarios. So this is something that, trust me, in my team, I have a program manager, and their only job is to do disaster recovery for the entire company. That's all that person does, day in and day out, 5 days a week for multiple hospitals, clinics, IT, network, you name it. So I know it may sound really crazy, but I'm emphasizing on this because this is very, very important to every company that's out there. So, yeah.
Nikhil, I'll just interrupt for 30 seconds. I remember doing, this session with some high school students, and we were talking about, so once they had done their work breakdown structure, one of the groups, they said that, oh, we are going to be a marriage event company team. And then we rolled into, trying to anticipate and understand risks. And these are, like teenagers, and they're trying to anticipate, okay, what kind of risks can be there, if you're managing a wedding and you're the event management team and your project is to manage. And I loved it that after all the other risks of rain and this and that, the standard ones, one of this young person comes up and says, the biggest risk, if the bride runs away, there's going to be no marriage. I said, that's wonderful. At least you've anticipated that. Now, as an event management team, how are you going to mitigate that risk? If the bride actually runs away, what's going to be your backup plan? So, yeah, I mean, it's fun when you're, planning, understanding, anticipating. But the wilder your idea, the better, because you never know what kind of risks may come in. And adding to, what Nikhil mentioned, there are also geopolitical factors. Which are out of everybody's control. So some risks are maybe in your control, but there are some that are completely out. So if you're not going to get particular chips from a country and the geopolitical situation is negative, you're not going to be able to make your product. The manufacturing will have to stop. So there are all of those factors, that one needs to kind of be aware and think about. Sorry, Nikhil, I just thought it'll be a lighter note for everyone with the bride running away.
That's so awesome. And I completely agree, because you have to think on the wild side and think of even the bride running away. You have to have, do you have somebody keeping a constant eye on her? Who knows, right? So I completely agree, because you have to factor in all kinds of crazy things, because I know project management seems like, it always seems like someone who has a lot of control, but it's not. It's someone who's trying to get control on every little thing and preview everything that's coming their way. So that's what it is. But yeah, like we said, you identify the risk, you analyze what kind of risk it is. Like we'll just go with the event management. That's a great example. You identify the bride being a high. So in risks too, something that we do at in our actual projects, we call them as a high critical, a high risk, a low risk, medium risk. So you analyze what kind of risk it is. So the bride running away, I would imagine, is the most critical risk. And you analyze it and you label it as such, and then you prioritize it, and then you assign a risk owner. So we normally assign a risk owner saying, hey, you know what, this risk is what you're responsible for. So the event management team could have a bodyguard or somebody there who's just going to make sure that the bride doesn't run away. Respond to the risk. If the bride is trying to run away, what are the 2 steps or the 3 steps that person is supposed to do? So you want to make sure that those steps are already pre-configured. So it's not, oh my God, the bride is running away. What do I do? You have the next 1, 2, and 3 action items if that risk starts to go into action or go into place. So you know what the mitigation of that is already because you've already planned for it. And then monitor. You're constantly monitoring the risk because what that means doesn't mean that you're monitoring the bride. Monitoring the risk is, can that risk happen more than once? Can that risk happen at multiple points of that wedding, right? So that's what we mean by monitoring the risk. Again, if you're getting into project management, do spend a lot of time in risk management. We do something called
Nikhil, you've gone on mute.
I think we have lost connection with him.
Oh, maybe it's his internet playing up.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just quickly message him. Okay, so in the meantime that Nikhil joins, let me just, kind of continue. I will not be able to share because he's still sharing, but let's just quickly move into, the kind of risks and risk management. And I think what he was going to bring up right now was scope creep. So risks can be clubbed under different heads. You can have, of course, budget and cost risks. There can be times when you have planned at the initiation stage and you have kind of put a budget to what you expect the project may cost. That budget, or at least a good part of it, is approved by the finance team. And then okay, yes, this is the budget that we have. And you are carrying on with the planning and execution, knowing that that is a particular budget. However, halfway through, you are told that, sorry, we need to cut your budget because some other project ran into extra budget and we have to now balance it out by taking it away from you. Too bad, sorry, your project is still ongoing. You're going to be able to make up and see how you can do with a lesser amount. So that can be a risk. Somewhere halfway through, your budget is curtailed, it's reduced, and now you have to go back and mitigate and plan for that. So keep those thoughts and those risks, possibilities in mind when you're planning. Also with the budget, when you are trying to work the budget out. So that is one cost. Technology is always a risk. There could be a software crash, a server crash. There could be other things that can happen. Some tools that you thought you would have when you're working on a technology project, they're not there. They have to be built. They might require more time. They might require more budget. You haven't planned for it. So that's a risk. Communication is the biggest risk. Is Nikhil back?
Yeah, sorry, I don't know what happened here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. So
Oh my
Nikhil,
gosh. I was just talking to a blank screen for the last 10 minutes. Sorry. Risk.
No worries. So I've taken everyone through cost and technology, and just hit communication on that slide on the types of risks.
Yeah.
But feel free to kind of, take over from wherever you left. Also, Nikhil, just requesting you to put it on slideshow. We are not seeing your screen in full screen mode. I can actually see the next screen as well.
Ah, okay.
So
How do we do that?
maybe just stop share and then share again. Or just go into slideshow mode.
We can try the display settings.
Yeah, I'm hooked up to a big screen right now.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries.
Are you able to see it now?
We can still see it, but it's just that we can see the screen and then we can see the smaller version, your notes as well. It says next animation. This is better. So now just go on slideshow. Yeah,
Gotcha.
perfect.
Oh
Perfect.
gosh. Yeah, so even our screens are only set up for Teams. That's our risk. But yeah, no, I'll quickly go through it. Scope creep is very, very, very important. Like we said, scope creep is something that we plan to do 3 things, but we end up doing 5 things. And I'll just take example of Dino. Dino told me to present this twice, but suddenly Dino tells me that I have to present this for 5 more sessions. It's scope creep, right? Because this is what Dino and I agreed for. So scope creep is very, very important. You want to keep an eye on what is planned. And this normally happens in an SOW, which is a statement of work. In technical companies, we also use something called TSD, a technical solution document. So that's the other thing. So you have technical solution documents, you have SOWs. These are the documents that stop scope creep and then constantly talking to your stakeholders. Cost, again, cost is something which is a very big risk for us. Costs could go up and down, and it could be related to scope creep or it could be related to completely something else. Related to scope creep could be, hey, I want you to make me 3 products, but then the expectation was 4 products, not 3, so it's going to cost me more. Or there were some external factors that our manufacturer or maybe the person, we needed 5 people to do the job, but now we have 7 people working on the same job instead of 5 people. So that's going to cost us a lot of money as well. Time is very, very related to scope creep and cost and everything else. They all talk to each other. Why is that? I plan to deliver these 3 projects or these 3 products in 6 months, but it took me 9 months. Because of it taking 9 months, it could be because I had less people, somebody was on vacation, or there was a scope creep where I had to do 4 things instead of 3, or the cost went up, and the cost going up impacted my time. So they all talk to each other in any which way. Technology, that's a big one. Technology, getting right for your projects is so important because we do all these assessments and we do POCs. A POC is basically, like a demo as a proof of concept. We do to check for a small factor. And we do a POC to make sure that, hey, are we using the right technology? Are we doing the things the right way before we actually get into the main project? So technology is constantly evolving. This whole AI thing, yeah, it's impacting every company out there. AI is a huge impact. And all the companies doing anything in technology today are racing to see how they can use AI. How can they use ChatGPT? How can they use Copilot? At here at Providence also, we have embedded Copilot, which is the similar as ChatGPT, but it's from Microsoft. We're using it in meetings. So our project managers used to do MOMs, which is meeting minutes. But right now, Copilot basically on Teams records everything that I said, what Dino said back to me, and also gives me a summary of notes. I don't have to do that myself. AI and Copilot is doing that just by analyzing the meeting that we're in. So yeah, technology is a big deal. People, like I said, you may have people who decide to move to a different city. They may got sick, decide to leave the company. Some people just don't like the project. Hey, you know what? I hate this project. I want to get moved to a different project. There's so many different things. And I think people is the most difficult factor because I don't think you can anticipate everything else. People is a funny business, right? You can't anticipate what are they going to do, what's not going to happen. So people is definitely the biggest risk for any project or any team or any company. Yeah. Any questions here? Type of risks? No? Okay. Communication, last but not least.
Nikhil, just one question I would like to know. So, is scope creep, is it a good thing to have?
Scope creep is absolutely not a good thing to have. So scope creep always happens. It always happens. I've never seen it not happen. It always happens. It's how you plan for it. Like I said, documentation, communication. These two things help you mitigate scope creep. Also, let's talk about, we all agreed to do these three products in a certain way, or this project, the project was to build a bridge. Now, there may be factors where this bridge may require more iron or steel, or you know what, the land around the bridge is not very settled in. Scope creep tends to happen a lot because people don't see eye to eye, or cost doesn't see eye to eye, or time and technology. But then how do you mitigate scope creep? Um, if scope creep happens, you go back to the drawing board and say, you know what, maybe I will allow scope creep. And then what I mean by allow scope creep is I will go back and I will look at the initial agreement. I will look at maybe we need to do things differently. It may cost us more, or it may take less time, or a different technology. For the betterment of the delivery of the project or the product, I will allow it. And then we will change our statement of work and our agreement with the stakeholders. Or there may be times you may just have to put your foot down and say, you know what, I'm already 60, 70% in. I can't deliver it to you right now. But once I deliver this at 100%, let me come back to you as a project 1.1 or 2.0, where we will go back and we'll fix some of these things. But that's going to be a separate topic and a separate project that's going to build on top of the first delivery. So you can go at either which two ways, right? You don't want to say a blank no. You may want to find a way to kind of find the middle ground. So like I said, communication is what will help you.
And just chiming in and,
Yeah.
adding to what Nikhil just mentioned, as a project manager, regardless of which company and project that you are working on, once you have the knowledge of the project management steps and processes, and once you know that there is bound to be scope creep in some way or the other, when you're making your scope and you're working on your project charter, keep these factors in mind. So what you've done is right at the beginning of a new project, instead of waiting for scope creep to happen and then going back to the drawing board, you know that this may happen, this may come up. So why not take that factor into consideration right in the beginning in your initiation project charters phase, and where you're outlining scope and time of your project, give yourself that little extra time right in the beginning. So tell your stakeholder, tell your person who's to whom you're going to be delivering that project to, you think this project can be done in 6 months, but I feel it's going to take 8 months, and here are the reasons. This is what I feel that it will take 8 months or 9 months. So if you have that right in the beginning, you may still kind of face scope creep, but you've kind of mitigated that risk. You've already put in that factor into your initial plan. So you don't have to then create another project, and you don't have to create another plan and say, oh gosh, now we are stuck. Now we need more budget, or we need more time. You've kind of factored all of that in right in the beginning. So these are things that you can kind of just think towards and work. Sorry, Nikhil, back to you.
No, that's perfect. The project charter, right? The project charter, the more solid your charter is, the less ways this could get impacted. So if you have a very strong charter
and you not only have a strong charter, the communication part, how well you communicate what's on the charter so that everybody working on the project and the stakeholders are all aligned to the charter will help you mitigate all of these. Yeah. Procurement, like we said, right? It's depends on supply chains, demand, supply. Again, this is a very tricky business. You got people with Six Sigma, Green Belt, and Black Belt. Those are the certifications who are very, very good at procurement and supply chains. Like big companies like Walmart or Amazon and stuff like that. You have this machine working in the background to make sure, but then you also run out of things. There may be things you may order from Amazon and it just doesn't show up, or it's out of stock, and stuff like that. So again, everything can break. There's nothing that cannot break. Yeah. We spoke about this. So we'll just talk about RAID. I was telling you that a RAID is very, very important. So the first word of a RAID is risk. We just spoke about the risks. It's basically all the threats, the opportunities that can be put at the project at risk. A is the assumptions, right? So before the risk even happens, you are always taking assumptions of what could be going wrong, what can go wrong, what you're anticipating. So these are all your assumptions based without it actually happening, so that you're getting ready to handle a risk before it actually happens, or a threat. Issues, events that have already occurred that have damaged or jeopardized the project. So what we do is we have project management offices, PMOs, or maybe you've done 5 projects, right? You've built 5 bridges. Now, we ask you to build the 6th bridge. With the prior expertise or the lessons learned that you have from the past 5 bridges, you will know that, hey, you know what? These things constantly went wrong with me building that bridge 5 times. So you know that these things are events that have actually happened or issues, and I can mitigate them and include them, because there's a possibility it's going to happen in the 6th bridge also. Dependencies. This is a very big one as well. What needs to be accomplished for the project to be successful? What are the dependencies? Maybe, getting the bridge ready is a dependency on a different project, or having all, what are my dependencies that I need to stand up the bridge, right? Supply chain, people, the architect, the plans, the approval from the state, the approval from the road committee, or the city governing board. There's so many dependencies for you to be able to have that project as a success. It's not just based on you going there and doing some design work and saying, oh, this project's going to happen. So dependencies also could be internal or external. Sometimes something in your control, sometimes not in your control. So always try to figure out, when you start a project, what dependencies your project is going to have for you to be able to successfully deliver your project or your product or your program. Yeah. Any questions there? Okay. So I know it sounds crazy, but you also have to start looking at risk management as an opportunity, because there's times where risks may basically, if you look at it from a threat perspective, you avoid it, you transfer the risk, you mitigated it, and then you finally accept it. But an opportunity is something that you plan for, and then you exploit it and you share it and you enhance that thing, so that risk that you had planned for, or something, oh, you know what? We planned for a steel bridge that required so much, but we got less supply. And because of getting less supply, we ended up not wasting a lot of steel, and we really rethought our process. So we actually saved money by it. So that risk of getting less steel to build the bridge actually turned out to be an opportunity, where the next bridge, when we factored in how much steel we required, did not require, 10,000 kilograms or whatever. It required only 9,000, right? So a risk can also come as an opportunity, not as a threat. So you have to keep an open insight to it, and maybe a risk sometimes turns around to be positive. Also, risk sometimes helps you see things that you had not planned for. You planned for so many things, but this risk kind of creeped in, and it actually helped your project, and it helped the future projects as well. So by you having that, it solved many other things that you had not even planned for. So it's an opportunity. I know it sounds a little goofy, but that's what it really is. Project integration, we move on from risk. Project integration management involves coordinating with all elements, tasks, I know we've been talking about this all for the last 2 sessions. It's basically on how you control the customers. You have the government, like we just said with the bridge. You have your own employees. You have suppliers. You may have lenders. You may have the community around you, the society. What do people? There may be you're building some product or project which may be going against the values of the committee that you're part of. So you really have no control of where and how and what you're doing. So there's a lot of different factors. And like I said, any questions here, we've been talking about this nonstop. So this all impacts your stakeholders is how we look at it. We'll go into this. This is more important. Basically, like we said, how do you integrate the different processes and the phases of a project? The project charter, what we all made previously, the project charter is so important. You get that right, you kind of, knock the ball out of the park with the first thing. So develop the project charter, develop the project management plan. So we have project plans that you can, if you're ever interested, you can just, there's ready templates for project plans, which basically say, what are your milestones? How do you do this? Who's responsible for delivering what, by how much time? So we have these ready projects if you're doing the waterfall way. If you're doing agile, you can use tools like Jira or Azure DevOps, and there's many other tools, Microsoft Project that you could use to build this. So yeah, but so yeah, you have different projects and different things, and so again, get the charter right, develop the project plans, you manage the project work, you manage project knowledge, you're monitoring and controlling. You're always monitoring, controlling things that can go wrong, and perform integrated change and control. I'm going to stop here, Dino, because I figured this was a session. I just want to take 5 minutes pause because I know this whole session is about women and their careers in project management and program. And I have two wonderful program managers, one with around 7 years experience, the other with 12 years experience. Gino, if you don't mind, if I just want them to come here, and if any of the wonderful ladies on the call have any questions, or if, I would love to hear their perspective, if that's okay with you, Dino.
Yes, absolutely. I think that'll be lovely. What better than actual practitioners motivating and talking about their experiences?
Yeah, so
Fantastic idea.
I moved it from the big screen just because my good old thing is not working, but I will have Shreya and Afshan, both program managers here. I made sure they came in early so that, and please feel free to ask any questions. So I'm going to pass it off to Shreya and Afshan. And you guys both sit here.
Great. And Nikhil, we can see your chat. I don't know if you want us to see that on the screen.
Oh, I don't think. What chat?
Okay, you just want to stop share maybe, and we'll be able to spotlight Afshan and Shreya then.
Yes. Am I still sharing? I hope not, right?
You still are. We can see your Zoom page.
Stop share.
Okay, now.
Oh, lovely.
Great.
Let me try to set it up on the big screen if I can. Sorry, our thing is finicky. It's only with Teams.
No worries.
Oh, please. Well. Just gonna change.
All right.
There you go.
Yeah, we can see both Shreya and Afshan. Maybe if you just remove that chair that is there at the head of the table, Nikhil, next to you, that will be lovely. Perfect. Now we can actually see that one. How fantastic. Thank you so much for coming in early and being a part of this workshop. And I think, the young ladies here who are on the call, some of them are, also in their work and their jobs now from anywhere from 5 to 10, 15 years. It will be fantastic to hear, your experience and to learn from you as well.
Okay.
Hello, Dino and team. Nice to meet you all. I'm Shreya. I work with Nikhil's team as a program manager, and I come with 7 years of experience. And I started my career luckily as a GSAP graduate with Dell, directly into project management. And that exposure gave me a lot of insights into the world of project management, how you deal with directly customer facing roles, and understanding what it entails to be a project manager with all the charters, the workbooks, the run books, and all the documentation that is so important and key in project delivery. And learning from there, I moved into Nikhil's team as a program manager, working on huge programs such as backup infrastructure and cyber resiliency. So it's been a great career path, and I think the exposure as a fresh graduate from college helps you understand and learn more from the experienced folks in the organization. So that's been my experience, but I'm open to any questions that anybody may have.
We can pass it over to all the young people on the call and in the workshop today to please ask questions, and no question is a silly question. Every question has worth and learning in it. So, whatever that comes to mind, please go ahead.
Or while they think on the questions, Afshan can give a brief introduction about herself.
Lovely. Yes, please.
Hello all. Hi. Morning. So yeah, I'm Afshan. I'm from Bangalore. Right now I've moved to Hyderabad to work for this wonderful organization, Providence. So I have totally 13 years of experience in which project management, yeah, it covers almost 9 to 10 years. Before that, I worked on various roles, like a delivery manager, it was service management. So I think my journey started with delivery part and then the service and the delivery management. And then I took a leap to project manager. It was a new role for me, but I think I was keen on having things organized. That's why I think my interest to project management was huge. And I took that leap over to project management domain and started my career over there. So I think I worked for almost 10 years in IBM. Yeah, after that, 3 years for an Abu Dhabi bank, huge organizations, big organizations with loads and loads of things that you learn, loads of experience. And right now I'm working for Providence as a program manager for handling security vulnerability. Again, it's huge. So I personally think it all comes down to your interest, your skills. You need to identify where your skills lie and where your interest is, and then what you're interested in working. Probably work of interest. You need to pick that up, and then probably that's where it starts. So you need to have a clear goal, understand what you want to do, even though you pick project management. I actually have made a couple of slides, actually not slides. I've just made a note so that I could highlight those things to you guys.
Yeah.
So I think identifying project management skill itself, you need to have, according to me, at least I had top 5 in my list. One being strong communication, and then problem solving, and then the leadership. Then comes the planning and organization with outcome focus. And the 5th one is team building and conflict resolution. So to begin, I think you need to reflect on examples from your personal life where you have demonstrated these skills. So identify those skills you already possess and highlight the ones you need to kind of acquire, So there's a lot of things. You can choose any field that you're interested in. Pick, for example, we are working for health organization. So you can go for engineering, you can go for event management, you can pick non-profit and government industries, etc. So there is no industry where you don't have project managers, They say project managers, yeah, I think the perspective people have is different, but what you do is huge. It's large. You need to get your hands dirty on all the technologies, all the fields, So yeah, make the most of your networking skills. That's what I feel, because you need to have a very strong networking skills. I would personally say go to LinkedIn, get on to LinkedIn and check. You can reach out to them, probably just have all those written down in a pen and a paper, what you exactly need. So you can ping, there are people who will help you, because I personally had mentors in IBM who literally groomed me, and I'm here right now. I think I would give that credit to my mentors over there. So pick a mentor that will really help you add value to what you're doing, what you want to do. And anything, I think that's pretty much from my end. If there is something, I would definitely add on. Yeah.
So Anuja has sent a question in the chat. Anuja asks, what difficulties did you face in actually managing a team and having people report back to you in terms of getting a response from people and so on? How did you manage that, and how did you kind of overcome? Sometimes I can understand what Anuja is saying. Sometimes if you're the young project manager in a team who with people who are older than you're not taken seriously, and especially if you're a young girl, more so with male team members who might even be older. The responses that come to you can be sketchy, may not come, you're not taken seriously. So how did you manage some of those challenges? Great question, Anuja.
Answer? I think building rapport in the first place helps in stakeholder management. Along with that, keeping your documents and emails very formal also helps in keeping a track of where you're going and how you can get a response from the actual stakeholders, so that no information is missed in between when you're discussing all of the information there. And majoritarily, I think a rapport building with the stakeholders is my key to taking difficult situations there. You want to add on?
Yeah. So I would agree with Shreya. It all comes down to how you communicate with people, what your rapport is with people. I personally have handled a team of 40 in which I had diversity candidates and also guys who are old. Like, I think that exactly is a question that she's asked. You have people who are older to you, and how do you handle them? So I did have challenges. I would not say no, it was easy for me. I really had a challenge, especially handling people, because they come out from different cultures, different mindsets, and to get down to their level. So I personally put an effort in spending a little time with them, probably understand their, you know, I would say their skills on, that's how it is. You build that personal rapport, understand where the skills are, what they're good at, and start giving them the things that they like to work on. That's how probably, there won't be any gap. You'll fill that gap. And the response that you get from people also is like great when you do that work. So I personally had to sit along with each and everyone, have a one-on-one discussion, understand what they need, what they're looking for. How am I as a project manager going to add value to that? Probably help them in reaching those goals or agendas that they have for their years and stuff. So probably you help them over there, you build that rapport, go on a one-on-one, just take a tea break, get out, spend that time, just 2 minutes or 3 minutes. I think everything will fall in place. It will take a lot of effort, personally, I would say. Sometimes things will not work great. Sometimes, even though you're putting a lot of effort, you'll not find that response, good response from people. But that again, you might have to not think about it too much and stress yourself out. You need to find a different way for that. So it works. 99.9% it works. That 1% you will have people that you will not be able to handle. It's okay. You always have your leads, your management people, your managers who will help you over there. They'll feed their inputs as well. So that way you can, streamline things.
I think the
I
key,
hope that answered the question.
yeah, I think the key is to
Yeah,
show
yeah.
them what lies in interest for them on the table and drive it from that point of view in projects.
Great question. Fantastic. Thank you and great answer. Okay, I see there's another question coming in the chat. I will, if it's possible to unmute and ask, it'll be lovely to kind of have a conversation. But let me just read this out. Ronita is writing how to manage an employee whose previous macro-based file was discontinued due to global project handed over to me for implementing application or project is constantly compared to features of Excel. I don't know, Ronita, do you want to just unmute and explain what you really mean?
My audio might not be that great, so I just put the question there. So there
We
was
can hear
one.
you.
Okay, so there was one file which was used by the whole team, which was macro based and was user friendly for everyone. But with global team going live with a project for all of them, this project was handed over to me to handle it and to implement with the team. Uh, but when I was trying to get this project moved on or explain to the team how to onboard it, use it, how effective it is with a lot of other benefits, I was getting a lot of backfired questions because this application was constantly being compared to Excel and Excel features, how user friendly Excel was compared to the new tool that is going to come in. And it was constantly from one person because he was the one who you know who used that, who created that macro file, and getting adjusted to the new project or the new application was a little difficult for him. So there was a lot of pushback and a lot of questions asked, though I did go back with a lot of answers and you know with a lot of right answers or how it's going to be useful, but there was always that constant push from this person. How do you handle such a person when you're trying to implement a project, is my question.
So Ronita, good question. I think on a daily basis, we kind of go through these incidents, or we have those experience with people. So personally, I think as a project manager, I think we are good at Excel. I don't know if you agree or disagree, but most of the project managers, they're really good at Excel because they start working on Excel. They have everything organized there, everything, planned. So see, I personally say you need to upskill yourself with the technology. You cannot stick to one thing and then, make your career there or grow in that industry itself. So now we have AI, we have automation, we have machine learning and everything. So if I have to answer your question, uh, have you're good at Excel, you have that thing, have that in your place, and then also try to explore that new application or project that is coming in. How you are going to add value to that project really matters. Okay, because right now, like I spoke about automation is vast. Rather than you having these Excel things, you can also build your own, have a script written, have an automation implemented, and have a dashboard where it is easy and you can have a real-time data. That's how it works. If you have worked with databases and everything. So Excel is one part of it that is handy for you. That is for your own purpose that you need to have. But when it comes on the front end, when a manager is asking you to use it, use it. There's nothing wrong in it. Uh, so I think right now also I have one file that I will keep for myself, an Excel macro, whatever you're talking about, because that is handy for us to work on it because we are really good at it. And then when you come and put something to the audience, they have to relate it. So I think personally you need to get upskilling yourself, use those technologies that come in to your come to your table. So I hope that I answered that question. You want to add something?
Also, connecting with the audience, I think the employee was your problem, Ronita. You mentioned that he was not ready for upscaling and he wanted it in a particular format which your organization was not using. So making it customer focused and giving them what they require and focusing on how you can come to a common ground helps in this situation. Like you have to find a common ground to work it forward and make each other. That's where the whole project starts, right? Once you have a common ground and you have an understanding of where the data is coming from, that's where you can build the project from and other details that um, grow on top of it. So I think making the other employee understand where you're coming from it would be the key here.
Absolutely. Let me just, kind of chime in and extend that thought, Ronita. Maybe, instead of having a confrontation with that particular employee in front of your other team, have a private one-to-one, understand his reservations. Maybe he's just more comfortable with that application, like you are comfortable with something else. Do completely unprejudiced, do a assessment of what he is saying. Sometimes we also get, because if somebody is being confrontational with us, we do get prejudiced and we kind of rush to defend our thinking. Try not to do that. Understand the point that that person is coming with. Does it have meaning and worth? Do a logical reasoning, thorough research, compare it to the Excel that you're using. And when you take that one-on-one conversation with logic and reason of the pluses and the minuses, you will be able to have that person really listen to you. Don't get emotional and say that I accept what you're saying. Start off on the back foot to say, this is a great idea. Get that person comfortable so that they open their minds to listen to you. Otherwise, the mind is going to be closed. He is going to think you're the enemy. And whatever you say is, something that he is not going to accept. So first job is to get the mind to open up to listen to you. The only way you can do that is to say that, you have a great idea. I wanted to really understand what you're trying to say. Teach me. Become the fool and say, okay, teach me. You got the person into the door with you to at least start talking to you. Once the person is start talking to you, you haven't told him, but you have done your homework. You have done the checks and balances. You have done the research of the pluses and minuses at the back end. Ask pertinent questions. If this happens, then how do we use this application? If that happens, how do we use this application? And in case the application that he's saying actually has more worth than Excel, then you just have to agree. If it doesn't have, and what you are saying has a point, you would have brought it across because you would have asked pertinent questions to pertinent situation as per the project that you are working on. And you would have told indirectly, without saying it in so many words, that you are going to be doing your homework. You will accept the ideas given by your team, but you will go back and judge it at your own end and then come back. And without saying my word is the law, you will reason it out and make them accept because it is based on logic, reason, and understanding. And then they will be able to accept it. So yeah, there is going to be this struggle and this pattern that you will have to take, but it can only be done one-on-one, and try to avoid confrontation with the person because it will put you down. If you do it in front of the team, then you will come down. And that will be not good for you as a project manager. Does that help, Ronita?
Yes, makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. Great, wonderful. Any other question for Shreya?
Hello team, this is Vaishali this side. Since a few minutes ago we were speaking about risk management, I have one question over risk management. Have you ever gone through a risk called as market volatility? And if so, market volatility. The market is volatile or fluctuating nature of market. And if you have gone through such kind of risk, what has been your mitigation plans over it, or How strategically have you overcome it?
Not exactly a market volatility situation, but a situation where the product would have a market advantage is what I've gone through. Like when we are trying to develop a product and that has a market advantage if it goes to the market much earlier than other competitors come into the picture, right? So such a situation has arisen in my case, and what we tried to do was try to expedite the feature and break it down so that we don't go with a complete list of features, but at least push it out so that the customers are able to make use of the initial features line that we have supported with. We've almost done like 80% of the work, but 20% still remaining. We try to make an agile improvement there and try to push out the product so that we got an advantage of using the market's space there. In this case, the customer had a edge over the remaining competitors where we went first into the market and showcased the importance of the product and helped gain the customer insight there, right? Customer got a huge sales from that perspective into that product. So that's something I'm not sure if it completely addresses your market volatility, but breaking down the feature into multiple milestones and then selling out as per the customer's focus and what can drive and improve the sales for the customer helped in that case.
Okay, fine. Actually, the industry I serve is a service industry where product is not involved, but I could relate to the answer that you were saying, that we had to reach out the customer at very initial stage so that we could bring ourselves up and compare to the other competitors, is what you're trying to say, right?
Right.
Okay.
So that you get an edge over the market.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Vaishali.
Any other questions or doubts anyone might have?
Okie dokie.
Great. So, just quickly wrapping up, I also see that we are down to the last half an hour. For whatever role that you are in the organization where you're working, communication, like Nikhil was mentioning, even as a project manager, communication is key. But, communication is not a one-way street. Communication also means listening. And for a good project manager, you're not only just listening to the words that your team members are coming up with, but you're also listening to the subtext, what they are not saying, but they are trying to imply and they are meaning. So pick on that as well. And the more conscious you are, the more empathetic you are, the more that you're willing to listen, the more the communication will happen. And as project managers, you all are in a leadership role, in a leadership position. And for people in leadership positions, it's also very important that you all are accepting of others' ideas. You may not. So there is a saying in Hindi, suno sabki, karo man ki. And that's a very good leadership attitude to have, especially when you're in a team and having a team discussion. Accept everything. Accepting other people's ideas doesn't mean that you are going to follow it through word for word. Use your own brain at the end of it as a project manager to say, okay, this of this person is a great idea. That of that person is a great idea. Now let me go back and think this through. Pick this of this person, that of that person, that of that person, put it out together and then say that here is the next plan, or this is the way that we can follow it through. But your team needs to feel that you will listen and you will accept the ideas that they are coming up with. Otherwise, you know what's going to happen? They are stop going to give you ideas. So when you have a team discussion, there will be no discussion. They will all just sit and not come up with ideas, because somewhere at the back of the mind, they've got this thing that you're not going to follow through. You're not going to listen. You're just asking for the sake of asking. And then you close doors. So kind of keeping that team together, keeping the collaborative effort together, keeping that communication together, be accepting, be open. Wherever you find that the situation is running to a head-on collision, diffuse it immediately. Do not have a one-on-one confrontation with any team member in front of the team. Pull the person out and have a one-on-one, and then you can blow the person up, but do it behind closed doors so that the rest of the members don't get to know about it. Ultimately, it is also the pride of your team member. You don't want to, just like you don't want to feel embarrassed, they don't want to feel embarrassed in front of their colleagues. It is their position, it is their number of years of service in that organization. Try to think of yourselves as school children when your teacher used to blow you up in front of the whole class. What did you feel? The situation is not very different. It's just that you're no longer a 10, 12-year-old, you're a 30, 35-year-old. But at the heart, you're still having the same feelings. It doesn't change. So keep that in mind. Think and, don't do that in front of everybody. Wherever you feel that there is a confrontation that's coming up, say, okay, that's a great idea. But you know what? I don't have an answer right now. Let me think about it. I think this is fantastic what you've said, but let me just go back and think and I will come back. Buy time. And you can do that with even stakeholders. It is not necessary that you have an answer to every question right there and then when you are having a stakeholder meeting. It cannot be possible. So you may have some answers because you've gone prepared for that meeting, but there you might be thrown with some questions that you haven't anticipated. That's a risk that you haven't thought about. You can always buy time. There is no harm in that, and say, this is a great idea. Let me think about it. I will have to go back and do some, reading, some research, and I will come back to you. Can I have 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, 1 day, 3 hours, depending on the question, and buy yourself time and come back. What you have done is you have kept everybody's pride, everybody's prestige, your own intact, and you have bought yourself time and you've diffused something that you could see was coming on as a head-on collision or a confrontation. And then you can pull that person apart to say, why did you do that? What did you mean? Did I do something wrong? Can I help you with, something? I didn't mean that. This is what I meant. What did you mean? Can you clarify? So again, when you're pulling that person apart, don't attack. Try to understand, but maybe you got something wrong, or maybe that person got something wrong. But if you go in with an open-minded attitude, you are then more acceptable. The other person will, be in a position to open out and talk to you because you haven't accused the person. But the moment you lay a finger and accuse, the person is going to clam up and you're not going to have a conversation around that. So keep the communication channels open, keep your team together. As a project manager, remember, you cannot do it without your team. You need the team to be there, and you need the team to kind of report back to the schedule that you have made. And something that Nikhil and Shreya and everybody mentioned, Afshan also mentioned, that when you are scheduling and delegating responsibilities, understand the strengths and abilities of your team and delegate accordingly. Somebody who's good at something, don't give them a task that is contrary to their natural aptitude and their strength. So as a team manager, again, it's a leadership lesson. You need to know the strengths and abilities of your team members so that when you lay down responsibilities, you are laying that down as per their strengths, because you want to get the best out of that for the quality of your project. And if you can do that, if you do it as per their strengths and abilities, they are more open to work. They are more open to kind of give their 100%. You give somebody who is good with invoicing and finance to go and do PR and marketing, you're running into trouble. And the other way around also is going to run into trouble. If you're going to give somebody who's a people's person, has people skills, and say, okay, you're going to sit and do accounts and invoicing, you're going to run into trouble with that as well. So little, leadership kind of lessons to put into place as a project manager behind the management and the science, of project management kind of makes it a little easier for you as well. Okay, Nikhil, I'm passing it back to you and Shreya and Afshan to kind of wrap this up. Any other things that you would like to mention, talk about to summarize the entire project management process? Back to you all.
I think they were great questions and insights into what the team is going through and learning from. Project management is basically what you do for yourself day in and day out as well. So I think it's a beautiful framework that's built, and just a little bit of curiosity into it will help us dwell more and learn better into it. I think adding more value to our projects would be by basically understanding what the PMI structure is, staying updated with what the PM box says, and with every version of it coming up, I think there's more agile adding into it. That helps us learn better and focus on different aspects of it, like the triad that we have, and focusing on people, process, and technology. These just sum up how you can improve yourself in project management in your work and day-to-day life as well. That's about it from me. Dino, it was wonderful talking to you and listening from your insights as well. I think that leadership skill is what I'll take back from this conversation we had here.
Lovely. Thank you. Thank you so much. Nikhil, any last closing comments, summarizing everything that you've taken everyone through?
No, we always say in our team, just be confident. I think confidence is something that we didn't talk much about. It kind of is the glue that brings everything together. And if you have an undecisive, unconfident project manager, program manager, everything else is just going to fall apart. So be confident in yourself and be confident in what you're doing. I think that's very, very important. It's okay to be self-critical, but then again, you have to be confident doing that. And yeah, and if anybody needs any mentorship, we have Shreya and Afshan. They are wonderful program managers. I'm sure they would love if you want to connect with them or myself or Dino outside this session. There's only so much we can tell you in 4 hours, but I don't want the journey to end here. We're here to answer any tricky questions. If you feel that this is the path for you, project management, program management, we all have different, you have 7 years, 13 years, I'm at 20, they all fought here, but we all are here to help. So anything that we can do to help, you want to do the right certifications. We have some project managers within our team who are actually going through project management certifications as we speak. Shreya just completed one as well. So there's a lot of different things that we can help you and guide you if this is the journey you want to take. And it's a pleasant thing. The one good factor about project managers, program managers, you kind of climb the ladder faster and quicker. A lot of the project managers and program and portfolio managers are representing teams to CXOs and VPs and stuff like that. So communication. So you kind of you fast pace your career as well. I think project management, program management has been very old and very big in the US and North America and stuff. And I think it's still finding its ground and growing in India. And when I say project management, program management, there's a lot of people who like to call themselves project managers without knowing what they're doing. So we see a lot of that in the industry because we do a lot of interviews. We are constantly hiring people. So, but I say if you want to do it the right way. And this role is blowing up. There's a huge there's a huge vacuum where there's not enough qualified and certified project managers, and you could fill that void in the years to come. So yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Nikhil. And I think that's a very, very important point. And I'm, just kind of reflecting back to the kind of questions that the young people here were mentioning. I think a lot of weight to your position and authority to your position will also come with a certification. Yeah, it's going to be a hard work. You'll have to study for it. You'll have to give the exams. You'll have to get the certification. But, anytime you require any help, we are all here to help you out. But it will stand you in good merit to have a certification behind you, so that next time when you are placed as a project manager for any project, and you have a team where you have people who are more senior as far as the number of years that they have worked in the organization or in age, your certificate will be a kind of an authority for you, that you are a certified project manager, and that goes a long way as well. So you're not just somebody who was picked up at random by the higher powers of the organization and said, okay, now you are the project manager, and there is a kind of a bad feeling that is going around. But there is a justification and validation why you have been picked for the role, because you are certified, you have got that certificate, and you are qualified to be in that position. And that will also kind of help. It goes a long way. Without saying anything, that certificate will go a long way in kind of validating, authorizing your position in the company and in your role as well. So yeah, that will make, just having that certificate is sometimes is a good thing to have, to kind of just position yourselves in your careers as well. And like Nikhil mentioned, there are always then going up the ladder with something like this. Put it on LinkedIn, let people see it, put your certificate up on LinkedIn, so people around see it, and, you can kind of start, and others will start connecting and so on. So that's a good thing to do as well.
I would like to add one thing, Dino, there. I think, see, project managers work in various fields and they require unique set of skills, So while there is no standard education path to becoming a project manager, but there are steps you can take to pursue this career. I personally transitioned from working from a service management service desk, and I've moved to a program manager handling the security vulnerability. So which basically surprises many people. And I think you need to outline those steps. I followed a few things to achieve my dream of becoming a project manager. So I would say, to get started, for all of you who are interested, ask yourself these questions. First, like, what are my passions and interests? What are my skills and strengths? Which industry or knowledge or expertise do I already possess? That's very important. Also, what are the job prospects and market demand in different industries? That also you need to, because the market is changing. There's a lot of things that is coming in. And what are the financial aspects? Because that's always there, into picture. And also say, can I see myself enjoying the work in this industry? Can I network or connect with professionals in these industries? These are the questions that you need to ask. Most importantly, confidence, network with people in the field, and I think you need to make the most of the networking effects being a project manager. And yes, adding, like you said, certified, get certified. That will add a lot of value to your CV, to your role. And I think right now we have PMP, we have Prince again, too many things. So also explore those platforms which you have courses, right? You have Udemy, Coursera, and too many things. So get on to that because there will be a lot of questions and scenario-based, questions asked over there. So you can get to know how I can handle it. You just look at a question, write down few answers and compare your answers to what exactly how you need to deal with it if you're wrong over there. So remember, it is really important to continuously learn, adapt, and refine your skills. as you progress in your project management journey. So I would say it was wonderful talking. Best of luck to all of you in your pursuit of rewarding this career of project management. So yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful, Afshan. I think those are nuggets that you have given out to these young people, and just so necessary and important, to be constantly learning, to be constantly upskilling, because don't think that you got it all, that, these are the number of certificates, I've done this, and then this is it. Very soon, within 6 months or a year, you will find somebody who is going to, kind of, will have other skills which are necessary, which are required, and you see them start moving up. Frustration is going to set in if that's going to happen, and you're going to be left behind. So the world today is about skills. Your LinkedIn requires you, or any CV, wherever you go, it's not how many, what your educational qualifications are, but what are the skills, how will you be an asset to the company that you are, looking to enter? What is it that you have that you can give that company? And how is it that you can be lifelong learners? Like was mentioned that there's Coursera, there's Udemy, there's a whole plethora of these online courses. How much can you put in to constantly upgrade, upskill, learn more, and keep adding to the value that you already have, so that you can kind of put it out there to say that, I have certification in this, I have done this course, I have done that course, and constantly learning, and upskilling yourself. And that is the requirement. Really, that's where the world is headed, and especially with AI and technology, and so many new things coming in. We are constantly doing it ourselves. When Nikhil was talking about risks, and he was talking about positive risks and negative risks, I think the corona and lockdown was a huge positive risk. Of course, there were a lot of negatives with it, but it also was a positive risk. Look at us today. Would we have ever done this in 2019? Never. But look at it. We are joining from all over the world today. And that was a positive of Corona. Zoom, I think, has broken records with its sales. Nobody knew Zoom in 2019. Suddenly, Zoom is the big thing today. It was a positive thing for Zoom as a company, isn't it? Or, for Microsoft Teams, Microsoft was kind of pushing their Teams out for years, and people were not taking it in because it was just an in-person world. And now suddenly we need to relearn and now go hybrid. So now we are all learning how to do things hybrid. One team in US, one team here, and I'm sure Nikhil and Providence are doing it all the time. They have the teams all over, and it's all hybrid. People are joining in, and people are joining remotely as well. So yeah, there is a constant learning, and teachers had to learn how to teach virtually. Something before that they were saying not possible. How can we teach online? It's not there, and yet they had to do it. And we all had to do it. So when push comes to shove, we need to do it. We will all learn. But if we are already skilled, we pick it up faster. We are the leaders at that time. We have the early bird advantage and the early mover advantage, as it's said in industry. And the others will struggle. So where do you want to be is the question you want to ask. You want to be ahead of the curve, or you want to be catching up? That's the question that you need to ask yourself. And if you want to be ahead, what is it that you need to do? And going to exactly what Afsha was mentioning, what is it that you need to do if you want to stay 2 steps ahead? As I've been an educationist for a long time, and as teachers, you always need to be 2 steps ahead of the kids. Otherwise, you've had it. They will overtake you. So to be always 2 steps ahead of the kid, you're always having to learn and upskill and be aware of what's happening. And it's the same in whichever industry that we get into. How do you stay 2 steps ahead of the curve, so that when you see something is coming, how do I skill and be prepared for that? And that's what's going to keep you going. Okay, enough bhashan from all of us to all of you guys to start off your day. Have a great time, and we hope that you will take something back and that you've enjoyed, you've understood.
Thank you again for your time. Very kind of you. And we look forward to many more sessions impacting more wonderful women in the industry. So thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Smile, everyone.
Thank you, Nikhil, for making time. Really appreciate you making time and being here, taking everyone through the session and the steps as well. Thank you.